You're very welcome on to the Matchbook Football Podcast. The football season continues to kick into gear, and we have our routines back now. We're middle of January, and the penultimate match day of the Champions League phase is upon us. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined each week and every week, and delighted and honoured, as always, by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke's presence. Four decent games, I would say, on the card here, so we'll get into that to start with. Again, something I don't really cover at the start, but I'm just going to start doing this, the old New Year's resolution. If you can take 2 seconds and you're watching YouTube, just to hit that like button, it'd be much appreciated. It helps the content get out to a wider audience. We see all your comments each and every week, and we can bring some into the show as well. And if you haven't signed up for Matchbook yet, what are you waiting for? You get the benefits of the exchange, but you also get the benefits of the sportsbook with the Bet Builder. So if you want the best pricing, but also Bet Builder options, enter the bonus code POD50, POD50 when signing up, and you get £50 worth in free bets when you bet 50, and that's exclusive to anybody listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube. Full T's and C's, you can see them on screen now. Just head over to our YouTube channel. So we'll start with Marseille versus Liverpool, lads. I might start with you, Mark, on this one. The Liverpool-Burnley game, maybe just a microcosm of Liverpool's season. I mean, they created a lot of chances. They were dominant, particularly first half, but the sloppiness, conceding goals, and it's just another 2 points dropped. The Champions League might be their best route to some sort of success this season.
Yes, it might be, although probably realistic at this stage to consider them as contenders or challengers, but they will be there or thereabouts considering the players they've got available to them. Yeah, I thought some of the comments after the game, I didn't see the full 90, I saw the extended highlights, felt a little bit harsh. They had 32 shots and racked up an XG well over 3, but as you say, sloppy at the back and concede a goal and aren't or wasteful in the final third, and it's going to catch up with you if you continue to do that. And I believe I read or heard a statistic that they are the first defending champions to fail to beat all 3 promoted teams.
Yes.
Which is quite a feat. But in terms of this match, I think it's actually quite an interesting game, them going to Marseille. Liverpool are outside the top 8 at the minute. They do finish at home to Qarabag, so there's every chance they can make the top 8 if they pick up a positive result in Marseille. Marseille are midway between the top 8 and the 24, so 3 points either way. They finish with a tricky game at Club Brugge. So I think they'll be fully focused here. Marseille fans and the Velodrome, we know, will always put on a show on these big European nights, especially against illustrious opposition. And this is a big occasion for Marseille, not just the supporters, but as a club. So they've already turned over Newcastle here at home in what was quite a fun and frantic game. And they had Newcastle on the ropes for large spells of that match. This is a team who have already beaten PSG at the Velodrome. They've held PSG very recently in the Super Cup on neutral turf. It just shows they can step up when it matters most, but they're also a team that can shoot themselves in the foot at times, and they can't always be trusted either. So, then you've got Liverpool, who've been on a recovery mission since that dreadful sort of spell during October, November. They've probably not recovered sufficiently enough, but they are unbeaten in 12 since PSV smashed them up at Anfield. And during that recovery, they have won at Inter, Spurs, and held Arsenal at the Emirates. So, I think the Inter and Arsenal performances showed a different side to Liverpool, a different side to Arne Slot. Quite happy to sit in their shape, play largely no-risk football and be difficult to penetrate. But despite those 2 performances, they've also played out a 3-3 at Leeds and a 2-2 at Fulham in that same unbeaten streak. So the Spurs win was also quite erratic, I thought, as well, if you look back to that final half hour against 10 men. So, Barnsley in the FA Cup, they weren't convincing. Burnley at the weekend, wasteful. But the even money favourites here. And if I knew they were going to be at it at their best, I'd take it. But it's difficult to know which Liverpool side are going to show up here, whereas Marseille are also without 2 of their most trusted defensive players in Pavard and Aguerd as well. So Liverpool should have opportunities here if they arrive with the intent to play and try and win the game. So I've ducked the major match odds markets and the handicaps. Instead, I'm going to focus on goals. BTTS and under 4.5 gets that collection of correct scores on side. 1-1, 2-2, 2-1, 3-1 either way. Marseille have conceded in 6 of the last 8 at the Velodrome. They've conceded at least twice in 4 of those fixtures, and 8 of their 12 at home this season have gone over, but just 2 went 5 goals or more. Liverpool have scored in 12 of 15 away this season, but just 4 clean sheets on their travels as well. My suspicion is they will go here and play, and that will create opportunities for both teams. Hopefully we'll get both teams to score over the line, and I'd be surprised if we do get a 5 or 6 goal game.
Okay, both teams are scoring under 4.5 goals, 2.05 on the match with Bet Builder that we touched on the top of the show. And Adrian, maybe a little bit on Liverpool. I mean, the positives is definitely Florian Wirtz playing a lot better. It does seem their whole attack is reliant on going through him, which to me, watching the Burnley game, seeing the better team could maybe deal with that a bit better. And then once you nullify him, that's Liverpool's attacking threat gone. Is that harsh on Liverpool?
Bit. I mean, they've still got other good players, haven't they? You've got your Soboslai and Ekitike and guys like this. Obviously, I don't know whether Salah will be available for this one or not, but potentially he might be involved. Gakpo's fit now. So they're in better shape than they were. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, Marseille are an exciting team, top scorers in France, but a little bit unpredictable at the moment. They're not in great form, are they? They lost to Nantes and Lille. They drew with Toulouse, all of these since the start of December. So they've been a little bit erratic. I know it's a tough place to go, but they did also lose in the Champions League at home to Atalanta by a 0-0, despite beating Newcastle and Ajax at home. So, yeah, I don't really fancy Marseille in this game. I think Liverpool have shown that other side that Mark was talking about. They've shown a bit more restraint, a little bit more discipline and caution. And given that Marseille are missing two of their better defenders and they don't keep many clean sheets anyway, just one in their 6 Champions League matches so far this season, I would absolutely fancy Liverpool to score, maybe get a couple here. I mean, they'll be motivated, Marseille. They probably need 3 points from their last 2 games in order to stay in the competition. They got Club Brugge away on the last day. As for Liverpool, they'll be highly motivated, of course, to make sure they end up in the top 8. It's more of a negative on Marseille in terms of the stats and pluses for Liverpool as well. Liverpool actually have the 3rd best XG and the 3rd best expected goals against in the Champions League this season. So despite being below par domestically, they're actually performing pretty well in Europe. And Marseille are way overperforming. They've scored 11 goals, but their XG says they should have scored 6.76. They're also outperforming. They've also let in less than they should have done, according to the data as well. So, yeah, look, I think after that 1-0 win at Inter, the 5-1 at Eintracht Frankfurt, I think Liverpool will go there thinking we can get a win here. But I'm like Mark, I don't think it's going to get out of hand. I would go with under 4.5 goals for sure, because I don't think that's the best way for Liverpool to go and win this game. And the best way is to control it, pick them off when they can, and then just see it out. So Liverpool to produce a professional away day. Liverpool to win under 4.5 goals. That's 2.3.
Okay, so take your pick there and we can combine the two for a £10 money back special. If you're new to the podcast, each and every week we give listeners a chance to cheer on a selection that combines both Mark and Adrian's picks. You get your money back as a free bet if you back this on the bet builder up to £10. Liverpool double chance, both teams to score under 4.5 goals. You can see it on the ticker there, 2.63. It'll also be up on insights.matchbook.com. Let's move on to Inter versus Arsenal. Stick with you, Mark, on this one. Get the neutral's view on Arsenal. Do you think that City result had any impact on Arsenal in that game against Forest? Because while they played well, they still didn't get that 3 points. That would have been a probably defining part of the season had they gone 9 clear.
I think it has. It does play a part, doesn't it? Because if you go to Forest and you avoid defeat, then suddenly you're a point better off than you were at the start of the weekend. So, Arsenal are always a bit more cautious on the travels. I think that's been a theme of Arteta, really. He's, go back to the early in the season. Remember, they went and lost at Liverpool when the game was heading to a 0-0 draw, and he got absolutely castigized in the press for playing for a point in a big away game, which is what almost all the big managers do in big matches. So, I don't think Arsenal are playing brilliantly right now, but I also don't think they're playing particularly badly at all. I think they're doing just fine, and I think some of the reaction can be often overblown in a weekend where almost all the big teams flopped in some way or form. But in this game, I'm not convinced this is going to be the blockbuster which we hoped it would be at the start of the campaign. Obviously, Inter versus Arsenal, 2 big names in European football, but the fact it's the penultimate round of the league phase, Arsenal have almost guaranteed their position in the top 8, or as one of the real top seeds in the top 8 as well, because they've had they've made a flawless start to the campaign in the Champions League. It just means they can head to San Siro without pressure, knowing that they don't need to win this match. A draw is perfectly acceptable. Even a defeat isn't going to matter too much. They finished the campaign at home to Kairat, which is the worst team in the competition. So because of the position Arsenal have put themselves in, considering the heavy schedule too, I can leave them alone as favourites at San Siro. This will be their 17th game in 57 days since the last international break. So that's a match every 3.35 days. I don't think Arsenal will often get the opportunity to almost play without that kind of constant pressure, particularly in a title race or even in League Cup semi-finals, for example. We won't hear that message publicly, I'm sure, but I think Arteta and his players could be forgiven if they don't put it in or aren't actually on it for 90 minutes in this occasion. It's Man United the weekend, which is of much greater importance, I think. So I'm happy to leave Arsenal alone for those reasons. However, they are difficult to beat at the best of times, even when they're not at it. 2 defeats in 33 this season across all competitions. They did lose here last season, but I remember them being the better of the two teams. The match settled by a penalty, and it wasn't the game sort of played in the same sort of circumstances as this one. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see something similar play out, in fairness. Arsenal do have the superior quality. Regardless, Inter need to avoid defeats at a minimum to try and preserve their top 8 position. But they do come into it back-to-back defeats in this competition. Liverpool won here, of course, recently when Adrian quite rightly tipped them up at a big price in the long shot to keep a clean sheet as well. And yeah, domestically, Inter have been basically the best team in almost every game they've played this season. But in the big matches that matter against fellow title challengers, they've been the better team, but aren't winning often enough. They've won just once in 5 against the top 4 in Serie A, and that's been a stick that's been used to beat Christian Kivu with repeatedly this season. Despite all this promise, they are failing to pick up wins against the big teams when it matters most. And yeah, this is a big game for Inter. So yeah, I'm quite happy to sort of swerve both teams here. I think the draw is a big runner. And because of that, I'll take under 2.5 goals at 188, which covers the 0-0, the 1-1, and a narrow 1-0 or 2-0 win either way. I wouldn't be a huge surprised to see this match sort of feature with just 1 goal at most, really. But yeah, surprised if this match escalates into a 3, 4, 5 goal game. Statistically, it's not the strongest selection. It's just more of a sort of a feel on where we are with these two teams, what's at play. And also 4 of Arsenal's last 8 against top flight opposition have gone under. 3 of those went under 1.5 goals. A draw is fine for Arsenal. And yeah, I think that's a big runner too. But I'll take under 2.5 goals as a bit of cover for either team too.
Okay, that's 188, the under 2.5 goals. And yeah, Adrian, maybe going back to your playing days a bit, when you have so many games in such a short space of time, and Mark rightly says there's not so too much on the line here, although Arsenal will be going for a result, of course. Do you maybe subconsciously ease off in certain games at certain points, or is it just a case of just trying whatever you have on the pitch, give it your all? It's hard to think. It's a hard question.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Each individual's different, each team's different. But Arteta's a big driver, isn't he? He's got high standards, and I don't think he'll allow Arsenal to switch off here. But I think Mark makes a really good point about the pressure. You know, there's been a lot of pressure matches lately, and this one really doesn't have that. I mean, Arsenal will still get top 2 if they lose this game and beat Kairat on the last day, which they really should do at home, with the goal difference actually pretty strong as well. Looking really only at PSG that can pip them if Arsenal get 1 point from their last 2 games. So they've really done the hard yards here. And my feel, I don't know whether Arteta will do this, but I would absolutely rotate heavily here, and keep your best, strongest 11 fit and sharp for Manchester United at home on Sunday afternoon. It's not a game where you need to take any risks at all. So I would personally make wholesale changes, and I suspect Arteta will, but he doesn't want to throw any game away, does he? So it'll be a tough one for him if he does make those changes. But personally, I wouldn't be playing. I'd only play one of Rice and Zubimendi. I'd only play one of the 2 centre backs. I'd probably rest both fullbacks if I possibly could. I might even change the goalkeeper. I would leave Saka out of the starting 11 personally. I think that this is a game that it's probably good timing for Inter to play Arsenal. A win for them all but secures top 8 as well. So it's a bigger game for them. Obviously, they've won 11 in the last 13 Serie A games. You know, they're 3 points clear. They're doing okay. Inter Milan, and they've got a striker in Lautaro Martinez, who obviously he's got a great home record in the Champions League. I think he's got 8 in the Champions League at home for Inter Milan since the start of 2025. So decent. He's decent in these games. Arsenal were the better team when on the last visit. lost 1-0 to a slightly dodgy penalty, one of those UEFA ones where I think it hits a hand when really couldn't really get the hand out of the way. So that was annoying. Arsenal sort of missed a lot of chances in that game. It's not to say if Arsenal do rotate that they'll lose the game, of course. The backups are pretty strong, but it does give us an opportunity, I think, to play the book a little bit and to maybe oppose Arsenal here. And you know that I don't ever like to oppose Arsenal, but I'm going to here. Into plus a quarter of a goal is 1.8, which means that Arsenal need to win for us to lose our money. Obviously, half goes on drawing a bet, and half goes on the half goal advantage for Inter Milan. And I do think that Inter will likely get a result here. So because of the things that I've mentioned. Also, Arsenal have a really bad record in Italy in the Champions League. The last time they won in Italy was March 2008, which is a long time ago. Yeah, a long time ago. So a lot of draws and a few narrow defeats chucked in. So I think this could be a draw at best for Arsenal, and that would be absolutely fine. But yeah, just I'm going to take the opportunity to oppose Arsenal here into plus a quarter, 1.8.
Yeah, Arsenal wore the white kit, wasn't it? Adebayor, Fabregas.
That's it.
He scored the 2 goals. Yeah, but it was
you
the first
probably
game
about 10 then. You were probably about 10,
mate. It was the first game I thought of when you said the stat, but I was like, that's obviously we've won a game since then, but obviously not. So there you go. So yeah, Inter on the Asian handicap for Adrian Clarke. There is a YouTube video on our Asian handicap markets on the Matchbook YouTube channel if you do want further information on that. Spurs versus Dortmund, and Adrian, we'll stick with you. I was with a Spurs fan most of Sunday, got the early Sky Sports notification saying Thomas Frank's under pressure, gave him the heads up, said, don't worry, I'll be the first to know and I'll let you know when they sack Thomas. They haven't. They're giving him the Dortmund game. Your thoughts on that? And is he going to get beyond Tuesday night?
Well, he's on borrowed time. I think that much is clear for all to see. It just doesn't feel the right fit, does it, Thomas Frank? I know Mark never thought it was going to work. It's just a style thing. Spurs fans have an expectation on the style of football, and they can accept defeats as long as they're playing entertaining, pass and move football, but and that's attacking. And really, they're sort of caught between a few stools. Really, Spurs under Thomas Frank, it's all a little bit muddled. I don't think the team are really behind the manager, if I'm brutally honest. They've got a few injuries, of course. Some of their star players are either out or feeling their way back to full fitness. So yeah, look, he's probably lucky to get this chance, and look, he could get a win, and it could be the turning point. I mean, they have been good at home in the Champions League, haven't they? This season, obviously awful in the Premier League at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but they've won all three. No, they played 3 at home. Yeah, they have. Yeah. This is their 4th. So they've beaten Villarreal 35th, Copenhagen 24th, and Slavia Prague 33rd. So it needs to be a bit of perspective on those home wins for Tottenham. They had a pretty easy ride, and they're playing a Dortmund team that are clear in second in Bundesliga. They've lost once domestically all season. That was a 2-1 defeat away to Bayern Munich. So they've really tightened things up. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy game, that is for sure. So for that reason, because I think Dortmund are a better team than Spurs, and that Spurs are sort of a little bit all over the place at the moment, I'm going to go with Dortmund double chance. So Dortmund to either draw or win the game, and I'll pair it with both teams to score. It's landed in 5 of 6 Champions League games for Dortmund this season. Spurs obviously a little bit leaky on home turf, but they're always worth a goal, aren't they? Tottenham Hotspur on home turf. So yeah, I think Dortmund can absolutely go and get a result here, but I would expect Spurs to give it a go. I mean, if you look at the XG for Dortmund away from home, 1.33. They're used to scoring away from home domestically. They're used to scoring in the Champions League on their travels. I think they'll score. I think Tottenham might get one. Dortmund not exactly watertight either. So I'm going to go with that. Both teams to score. Dortmund double chance, 2.2.
Okay, and Mark, you're under similar lines here. And in fairness, you've been banging the Thomas Frank, not a good fit Spurs drum for a long time. It's been interesting. The second half of both those games, when they scored the goal to get them back in it, there's that excitement. There's good noise from the stadium. They want to be supporting their team. It just doesn't seem the right appointment.
No, and I've said it from day one, really. I'd always think twice or three or four times about taking a head coach away from Brentford or Brighton. And funnily enough, reports today suggest that if Spurs were to sack Thomas Frank, Fabian Herzler would be towards the top end of their list, which, when a club's going to learn, do not take a head coach from Brentford or Brighton. It's not going to work. Anyway, I don't care about Spurs, so do what you want. But yeah, I'm very surprised we're talking here on Monday afternoon, and Thomas Frank is still the Tottenham boss. To lose at home to a London rival who happened to be marooned in the bottom three in the manner they did on Saturday, felt like the final straw to me anyway. West Ham had 17 shots in the box, 4 big chances, an XG of 2.7, figures way beyond their usual output, and showed they deserved their 2 goals on the balance of play and deserved to get a result away at Tottenham, who were shocking for a lot of that match yet again. We've talked about their sort of impotence in forward areas throughout the season. Only 3 clubs have a lower XG output in the Premier League. Only 5 clubs have managed fewer shots in the box. But they've started to unravel defensively as well. And we were told Frank was supposed to be fixing the defence first and foremost, making them much more stable and solid. But they've now conceded multiple goals in 10 of their last 16 games. So, yeah, they get a slight respite this midweek by playing Champions League football, where on the surface their form has been much better. But as Adrian says, context is absolutely key. They've had a really kind schedule: Villarreal, Bodo, Monaco, Copenhagen, PSG, Slavia Prague. They did play well in defeat at PSG. I'm going to credit them there. Lost 5-3, but played very well that day. But PSG are the only team above 19th in the Champions League table they've played so far. They've played 3 of the bottom 5 who are all winless. And yeah, the market certainly agrees with our sort of negativity towards Spurs, because they're outsiders at home to Tottenham here. They've been drifting as well the last 24 hours. They drifted going into that game against West Ham at the weekend as well too. Yeah, we know their home form has been wretched for quite some time. Only 5 home league wins under 5. Only 5 home wins under Frank across all comps. All 5 came alongside clean sheets. And I'm not at all confident they keep Dortmund out this midweek. So Dortmund 0.0 on a handicap, 1.93, knowing the draw is stakes returned. Happy to take that. They've had 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat across their first 6 games, but they've rattled in 19 goals, and their sample of opponents is a better Juventus, Athletic Club, Copenhagen, Man City, Villarreal, and Bodo. The only loss came at Man City, where they really didn't look arse, I don't think, from the first whistle, almost as if they wrote that game off before a ball was kicked. But they've scored 4 goals or more in 4 of those games, and they've scored twice or more in 5 of 6. They've scored in every game so far. If they score here, I fancy them to get at least a point out of the game. They are the second best team in Germany now. Full credit to Niko Kovac for turning them around for where they were when he took charge over 12 months ago. The losses this season: 2-1 at Bayern, that Man City loss, and a 1-goal margin defeat against Leverkusen in the Pokal shows they're being competitive in every game. They've scored in all 14 away days, lost only twice on their travels. And actually in the Champions League, go back to October 23, their returns are 8 wins, 2 draws, and 5 defeats. The defeats: Man City, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and Bologna. So they've been very good and competitive on their travels for quite some time. So happy to be pro Dortmund here.
Okay, and Mark's long shot is in this game as well, so stay tuned or look at the timestamps now in your description. Adrian, Newcastle versus PSV. We were picking the last game. I ended up getting the vote, and I do think this is an intriguing game. I think Newcastle are an intriguing team, and I think summed up by that draw against Wolves. Where exactly are they? Because they've had some good results this season, some very poor performances in there. Champions League's going okay, some decent results too. I've asked you this question maybe over the last number of weeks and months, but where are Newcastle right now?
I think they're underwhelming. I think that's fair. You know, they should be doing better. I think top 4, top 5 is an open goal for them really this season if they were to find the form that we know that they're capable of. So yeah, look, it's not all over. You know, they can turn their season around. I'm intrigued about how they're going to work with Voltemada and Visser, and they can play in the same team. But they need Gordon back in form. I think that midfield hasn't been quite as brilliant as it can be. Joe Linton's has gone a bit off the boil, hasn't he? So I think they should be doing better, definitely. And I can't back them. Funnily enough, at St James's Park at home to PSV, I can't get on board with them here because they're up against a PSV team flying. 17 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat in Eredivisie. There's 16 points clear of Feyenoord. Away from home in the Champions League, I've got a couple of draws at Olympiacos and Leverkusen. One handsomely at Liverpool, famously, of course. And yeah, look, they've got a perfect record in the Dutch top flight away from home this season. So they won't be phased by this trip at all. They won't worry about the atmosphere. You know, they're pretty seasoned, aren't they, in Champions League football, this team. So I think they'll be fine. They can handle it. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not going to back them either. I'm going to steer clear of the match result here. I do think both teams are likely to score. Obviously, PSV, you know, are very attack-minded. They always have been under the current head coach, and away from home, as I said, perfect record. They keep scoring on the road. We saw what they're capable of at Anfield, of course. So I'd back them to score. Newcastle's defence still not anywhere near what it should be, what it was at the start of this season, what it was at times last season. So yeah, but on home turf, I would absolutely always fancy Newcastle to register as well. Both teams to score, by the way, is priced up on its own at 1.6. If you want both teams to score an under 4.5, which I do, it jumps from 1.6 to 2.4, which I think is massive. I think that's a really, really healthy jump. Now, some PSV games do get a little bit leery. I think, you know, I think half of their games have gone over 4.5 in this competition this season, but none of Newcastle's have. They've all been under 4.5 goals. Newcastle have scored in all the goals as well. PSV's XGA, expected goals against, actually away from home in the Champions League this season, isn't great. 2.11, which is very high. That's a lot more. That's more than the goals that they've actually conceded. So I think Newcastle get chances here. They score. I think PSV, good going forward, score. But nothing crazy. So yeah, we've got a load of score lines obviously on board for this one. You know, 1 apiece, 2 apiece, 2-1 either way, 3-1 either way as well. And I'm up for that at 2.4.
Okay, and Mark, you're in agreement on the both teams to score angle here for sure.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game, actually. I think it's got real potential for goals. Newcastle just 2 points shy of the top 8. PSV only 2 points inside the top 24. Newcastle finish at PSG. PSV host Bayern. So you think both of these two teams should be properly going for it here, considering who they play on their final match day. Both usually produce goals anyhow. We know Newcastle can be a real Jekyll and Hyde team in terms of their home and away performances. Sunday's match at Wolves was pretty dreadful from their perspective. No shot on target until the 86th minute. But at St James's Park, we know they tend to play front foot and are quite proactive. Didn't score against Man City last midweek, but I thought they carved out numerous good opportunities, good moments, but failed to either get their shots away or were quite wasteful in good positions. That Man City match actually halted a run of 13 successive home games when Newcastle have scored at least 2 goals or more in front of their own supporters. It was also the first time in 19 this season Newcastle had failed to score at home. They're averaging 2 goals per game at St James's Park, but they've also managed just 1 clean sheet in 9 at home. Man City, Bournemouth, Leeds, Chelsea and Spurs have all gone there and scored at least twice in recent visits. Fulham and Burnley have been there and scored as well. So I think immediately you have to look towards goals with PSV involved. They always carry a threat. They have failed to score just once in 19 group or league phase Champions League games. And their last 2 really sort of epitomised PSV. They were turned over 3-2 at home by Atletico. They won 4-1 at Liverpool. They've also beaten Napoli 6-2 and lost 3-1 at home to Union Saint-Gilloise. 12 of their past 15 away days in this competition have featured both sides scoring. In the Eredivisie, they've only kept 4 clean sheets and 10 on their travels. So, yeah, absolutely like the look of goals here and both teams to score. I think Newcastle are too short to support. So the way in which I'm going to make it pay is to back both teams to get a booking. It's quite an important game, as I've already outlined. 195 if you include both teams to collect a card alongside both teams to score. It's landed in 5 of Newcastle's 6 Champions League matches. The card totals in Newcastle games 6-5, 2-2, 8-4. So they've tended to be quite lively. PSG not so strong, but they have been carded in 4 of 6. And the referee here is Daniel Hussey, the German, who actually refereed PSV's game against Napoli gave 5 yellows and a red, 4 yellows to PSV, incidentally. You look at his last 20 European club assignments, they average 55 booking points. He's given 4 or more cards in 16 of those, 3 or more in 18 of those. This season, he's done 4 league phase games, given 10, 7, 5, and 4. Last season, he gave 4, 6, 4 in the league phase of the Champions League as well. So, yeah, because of the importance of the game, can easily see a few bookings being handed out. Both teams to score, both teams to be carded, 195.
Okay, so both the guys expecting a good game in St. James's Park under the lights on Wednesday night. Let's go to any other bets. And Adrian, you've 2 selections starting with Karabag versus Eintracht Frankfurt, over 3.5 goals. Come in again there, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. I fancy this one to be lively. 7 of Karabag's last 9 in the Champions League have gone over 3.5 goals. They're often worth a couple of goals themselves on home turf, but they don't have a watertight defence at all. Conceded 11 in their last 4. And they've been off, haven't they, for a winter break? I think they played just before Christmas. They haven't resumed domestically yet. So you could look at that both ways. They'll be a bit undercooked, but maybe fresh for the game. Big motivation for both teams here to go and win the match, because I think a win gives both a great opportunity to stay in the competition. Yeah, Karabag are doing okay here. Frankfurt, we know score goals, but they don't half let in a lot, don't they? It's crazy, really. In the Bundesliga alone, 61% of Frankfurt matches have gone over 3.5. That rises to 80% away from home. So when they go on the road, you know, they very rarely let in less than 1. It's normally twos and threes. Both teams to score has landed in 90% of away games for Frankfurt this season, and they've conceded 16 in their 6 games so far in the competition. Away from home, just to give you a bit of perspective, this is how many Frankfurt have let in their last 5 in the Bundesliga: 3, 3, 1, 6, 3. So, you know, Karabag have got to fancy their chances here. I was tempted to look at them as a possible long shot, long way to travel and all that, and with that kind of defensive record away from home, you couldn't back Frankfurt with any kind of confidence. So I'm going to leave the game alone, but just tip up goals here. It could be pretty lively. I certainly hope so. It's a nice price as well, 2.34 on over 3.5 goals.
Okay, goals angle there. And Atalanta versus Athletic Club, your second selection. You fancy the home side here?
I've been disappointed with Athletic Club this season. I mean, Arsenal played them on the opening day, and it was billed as a real tough game, and it really wasn't. And from that point onwards, they've disappointed. This is actually 5th in Atalanta, playing 28th in Athletic Club. So, you know, 5th at home to 28th. I'm surprised to see Atalanta at a backable 1.88. I've got to be honest. They've won 5 of their last 7 domestically in Serie A. They've won 4 of their last 5 at home. The only game they did lose was 1-0 at home to Inter. Atalanta have beaten Chelsea at home. They've beaten Club Brugge at home. Drew with Slavia Prague, which was disappointing. And they're solid at the back. You know, they don't give much away, Atalanta. They've let in 2 in their last 5 Champions League games. The first match day, they had a bit of a stinker. But since then, they've done okay. And only Arsenal and Inter Milan have actually let in less goals in the Champions League phase than Atalanta. You know, as for Athletic Club, as I said, they're 9th in La Liga. They're scoring at less than a goal a game. They've blanked in their last 3 in the Champions League. They've blanked in 4 of 6 overall. It's an average away record. They drew, I think, in Prague. They lost at Newcastle. They lost at Dortmund. And they're not in good form in La Liga either. I think they've lost 3 of their last 4. So, yeah, poor season for Athletic Club. I think they've been way below what they should be. And Atalanta, a bit of a surprise package this season. Obviously, post Gasperini, they're doing just fine. So, yeah, I want to get on board with them here at 1.88. I think they can win it.
Okay, so they're Adrian's 2 picks. Mark, we'll start with yours and Bayern. I mean, Bayern just keep scoring goals. I mean, just looking at domestically, that 5-1 win away to Leipzig, they've dropped two draws the whole season in the Bundesliga. They're absolutely flying domestically.
Yeah, it's been a record-breaking Bundesliga season for Bayern Munich, their record, as you say. But across all competitions, it's quite astonishing, really. include their 5 wins from 6 in the Champions League, 25 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat this season across all competitions. And if they beat Union Saint-Gilloise this midweek, they'll guarantee themselves one of the top seeds in the Champions League. And considering they've done this all without 2 of their star players, Alphonso Davies and Jamal Musiala, it's been incredibly impressive. And at the weekend, as you say, they smashed Leipzig 5-1. They beat Cologne 3-1 last midweek. They also smashed and annihilated Wolfsburg 8-1 before that. They're averaging 361 goals per game this season. They've scored 4 or more in 12 of those 28 games. In Munich, they are 11 wins from 12 unbeaten, averaging 4.08 goals, hitting 4 or more in half of those 12, and they've scored 3 or more in 10 of those 12. So, I was trying to find a way, a fancy price to get Bayern on side, scoring 3 or 4 goals in this game, but the only other correct score option on the Matchbook Exchange only gave us 2.18 for Bayern to win by any other score, which requires them to score 4 or more. So the more palatable option, I thought, was to back Bayern to win and both teams to score at 2.52. This is a team who scored 3 beating Chelsea, 3 when beating Sporting, and 4 when beating Club Brugge, Union's divisional rivals at home this season. Union's last 5 Champions League results: lost 4-0 at home to Newcastle, lost 4-0 at home to Inter, lost 3-1 at Atletico, lost 3-2 at home versus Marseille. They also beat Galatasaray 1-0, but 4 defeats, conceding at least 3 goals. 2 have conceded 4 or more goals. They're giving up 2.07 non-penalty expected goals per game, 4.33 big chances per game. You do that against Bayern, you're going to get punished. However, 12 of Bayern's last 15 have seen both teams score, including 6 of 8 at the Allianz Arena. And Union have managed to score in 4 of 6 Champions League games, and they are averaging 13.65 shots in the Champions League. And they have been creating chances. They do try to play on the front foot, and if they do go toe-to-toe with Bayern, there's only going to be one winner. But considering some of the sides who have scored against Bayern in recent weeks and months, there's no reason why they can't get on the score sheet as well, despite getting absolutely walloped by Bayern. So, I thought the best price there was 2.52 on Bayern to win and both teams to score.
Okay, and you mentioned that market, which is any other score in the correct score market. So basically a team to score 4 goals or more but win the game, and you have found the value, you think, with Barcelona rather than Bayern this week.
Yeah, so I watched Barcelona lose to Real Sociedad on Sunday night. It was one of those games where nothing went right for Barcelona. They had 4 goals ruled out for offside. They had a penalty that was overturned for offside. They hit the woodwork 5 times, generated an XG of 368, had 25 shots, 18 from inside the penalty area, 7 big chances. According to my data, they win that game 93% of the time, and they lost it. So, they're now in the Champions League, 2 points shy of the top 8. So it's not been overly convincing for Barca this season. They dropped points at Club Brugge, didn't turn up at Chelsea in that defeat, lost at home to PSG. So this is a big game for them, and it's also a great opportunity, I think, to get back up and running away at Slavia Prague, who are still on their domestic winter break. They've not played competitively since mid-December. They've played 3 friendlies in the past 5.5 weeks. They've not exactly enjoyed the best Champions League campaign so far. They've failed to score in their last 5, and they've been beaten 3-0 by their 3 strongest opponents, Spurs, Arsenal, and Inter. They've carved out just 5 big chances in 6 Champions League games, giving up 32. That's 5.33 per game. And you do that against Barca, you're going to get hurt. So taking a bit of a longer shot here by backing the Barca to win by any other correct score, as you say, requires them to score 4 or more and win the game. They scored 2 in Newcastle, 3 in Brugge. They've scored twice or more in 9 or 14 away. They've scored 3 or more in half of their 10 away days in this competition, going back to the start of last season. And 3 times they've scored at least 4. They need a win. They're facing an undercooked opponent who are as good as eliminated in this competition. I think Barca to win and score at least 3 goals is it's odds on, actually. So to get 3.55 on Barca to win and score 4 or more look worth a shot. So all their big names are fit and available in forward areas. They could and should have scored 4 at Sociedad on Sunday. They've recently scored 3 against Real Madrid, 5 against Athletic Club, 5 against Betis, 4 at Celta. None of those matches were at home either. So they're all opponents who are worse than Slavia Prague. So we will see if they can do the damage this time around.
Okay, so you're getting a big price there, 3.55 long shot time. And Adrian, you've got a fun 5-fold midweek Champions League special. So hit us with it.
Can't beat a little hacker, can you? Just one to follow across Tuesday and Wednesday night. Let's hope it's still alive by the time we get to Wednesday. Yeah, it's a 5-fold. 4 big, odds-on favourites here. Barcelona to beat Slavia Prague. Mark's just outlined why that's almost nailed on. Chelsea to beat Paphos. I think that feels surely they beat Paphos at Stamford Bridge. Bayern Munich to beat Union Saint-Gilloise. Real Madrid to beat Monaco. Now, Monaco have only lost once in the Champions League this season, but their away games have been at Paphos, Buda Glimt and Brugge. This has been a different kettle of fish, and obviously the players have kind of got their wish, haven't they, with Xabi Alonso going, and I think they owe the fans a bit of a performance there. So I would imagine they'll have too much for Monaco. Still need the points, Real Madrid. And so that's 4, not gimmies, nothing's ever a gimme, but they're 4 massive odds-on favourites. Now, I need one other one to take it into long shot territory, and I'm going with Inter. Inter against Arsenal. It's head over heart, but I do feel, as I explained earlier on in the show, that Arsenal will rotate heavily. They don't need to win this game. They can actually afford to lose, and they still finish top 2 if they win the last game against Kairat at home. So I imagine it'd be a much changed lineup, and that Inter might be up for this, and that they can be the first team to beat Arsenal in the Champions League this season. So yeah, that takes it into long shot territory. It's a nice price, actually, 6.32. So Barca, Chelsea, Bayern, Real Madrid, and Inter.
Okay, you can see it on the ticker there as well. Do your multiples on Matchbook, invariably getting the best price on the odds checker grid. Long shot for you, Mark. We touched on this game already, but flesh out your case a little bit for Dortmund to cause an upset. Well, not cause an upset, but get a result, a big result away to Spurs with both teams to score.
Yeah, I've already opposed Spurs on the show. Happy to do so again in the long shot. Dortmund have good pedigree for winning away in this competition. They have been free scoring in this competition this season. They've scored 4 or more goals in 4 of their 6 Champions League dates. That's a big concern for a Tottenham side who are now malfunctioning in both boxes right now. They've had a very soft schedule so far, so I'm not reading too heavily into their Champions League results. More interesting, I think, is their continued struggles at home. I'm amazed that Thomas Frank is still in the job, but his days do look numbered. Despite all that negativity, Spurs do have that ability in forward areas. I wouldn't put them off getting on the score sheet here, as they invariably do, home or away, actually. So, yeah, I just fancy the big price here on Dortmund to win and both teams to score. It's 4.9.
Okay, and Adrian, you were nodding in agreement there off air about a lot of Mark's case with Barcelona. And is your best bet is a pro Barcelona angle as well?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I was glad I put it as best bet and not in the sort of other section, so that we didn't clash. I haven't gone quite as bold as Mark with the sort of at least 4 goals, but hopefully I found a way in at odds against to get on side with Barcelona. I want to back them to win by at least 2 goals, and for there to be over 2.5 goals in the game. As Mark said, this is a big game for Barcelona. 15th, they need a win. There'll be a big focus here. Slavia, I can't see them putting up much of a fight here. They're undercooked. They're heading out of the competition. Remember when Arsenal played there? They pressed quite hard. They got a big centre forward who's a bit of a handful, but there's a bit of a gulf in class, really. And I think that Barcelona will expose that. You could get Barcelona to win and to nil at 2.88, but there is always that risk of that 1 goal kind of ruining it for you. So yeah, just to win by 2 goals, I think they should win with something to spare here. Surely Slavia will either blank or score 1 max, and Barcelona absolutely capable of scoring 2, 3, 4, or even more here. Barcelona had 3 clean sheets in a row in La Liga before that Real Sociedad defeat, which was incredibly unlucky by the sound of it. So I think there'll be a little bit of anger there, a little bit of frustration that they need to unleash. They're averaging a lot of shots in the Champions League, 15, 16 a game, and that's against some pretty hard opposition. I think they're going to rack up over 20 shots here and win with something to spare. So yeah, my best bet is 2.15, Barcelona to win by 2 goals or more, and there to be over 2.5 goals in the match.
Okay, summarized again on Matchbook Insight. Final word to you, Mark. Now, it is the weekly check-in where David Luiz is going to be each and every week, but I do read a very quote here that he could potentially miss out on the Stamford Bridge return.
Yes, yeah, struggling a little bit, but I think this is all about Chelsea for me, really. We're getting even money on Chelsea to win alongside a clean sheet against Paphos, which I think is is more than fair. It should be odds on in my book. Paphos have been good fun to follow, not from a goal scoring perspective, more from an S-Hansery point of view, really. They've played above themselves to be pretty competitive for the most part, to make life difficult for most of their opponents. But Bayern did swipe them aside pretty comfortably in Cyprus. Chelsea are their next toughest opponent, really, when you look at their schedule so far. And they've done well so far, but I think Chelsea should be capable of winning this with room to spare. Exclude Paphos's game against Kairat, who are the worst team in the competition, and you can see how much how this match might play out. They're averaging 0.67 expected goals from their other 5 games. When we exclude penalties, they've managed only 5 big chances across those 5 games, 6 shots in the box per game. They've allowed 24 big chances, an average of 2.41 expected goals. They've played 3 away games so far: Kairat, Olympiacos, and Juventus. They've been nilled in all 3 of those. Olympiacos, they lost a shot count 18-6 in a 0-0 draw. Against Juventus, they conceded 25 shots and 2.5 expected goals and a 2-0 defeat. Chelsea should have Esteban back. They've got a glut of options in forward areas. Defensively, Tosin might miss out now, but Fofana can step in. And whilst they weren't completely convincing against Brentford on Saturday, far from it, I was quite surprised to learn that Chelsea are actually the second best team in the Premier League for keeping clean sheets. It's now 9 in 22 league games this season, 5 from 11 at the Bridge. That's around a sort of 40% plus clean sheet record in the Premier League, better at home. They've also conceded just the 1 goal at home in the Champions League when facing Barca, Ajax and Benfica. So Paphos are worse than at least 2 of those 3 teams. So yeah, I think evens, considering Chelsea are trading about 115 or so to win, to get them to win alongside a clean sheet at evens, I think is more than good enough.
Yeah, big jump, big jump to even money, I have to say. So my thanks to Mark and Adrian. As I said, all the bets are recapped on insights.matchbook.com. If you can take 2 seconds, hit that like button if you've enjoyed the content, and leave a comment for the guys. We do read each and every one. We'll be back later in the week to preview more Premier League action, but enjoy this week's midweek's Champions League, and we'll chat to you later in the week. Bye-bye.